Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope that you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to walk you through assignment number two. Assignment number two is called the Creative Mindset Assignment, and you could see at the top of the assignment instruction sheet here on the left of my screen that the value of this assignment in terms of grades is 25%. So this assignment is worth 25% of your final course mark. The purpose of this creative mindset assignment is to do some creative thinking and then to write your origin story. Your origin story as it relates to your journey into your domain, into your field, into your craft. In this assignment instruction sheet here, I'm going to be using the term field just because that's it's more aligned with the way that people talk in normal everyday life. In contemporary discourse, people use the word field in terms of the area that they work in. In psychology, the actual term for that is domain, and we're going to use that term as we move along in this course. But for the purpose of this assignment, we're calling it a field. So what we're doing here is we're going to be writing, you're going to be writing your origin story about the roots of your journey into your field and into your craft. And of course, as usual, there's going to be a divergent thinking, there's going to be an ideation component, which will be your process work. And then there will be an actual written articulation, a written part, which here is going to be that actual origin story that's based on what you came up with in your ideation component. So let's just walk right through it, okay? You can see here on the left of my screen, I have the assignment instructions, and on the right, I have my Google Chrome browser. Because we're going to be working in Chrome here as well, we're going to be working on Miro. You don't have to work in Miro. You can also use actual hard copy, real life Post-it notes or sticky notes. But I prefer to use Miro, and I saw for assignment number one, a bunch of people used Miro as well, which is great. So let's take a look. It says here, creative mindset, your origin story. The due date for this is Monday, October 9th at 11:59 p.m., and it is expected to be submitted into a Dropbox on Slate. All right, so what does it say? It says, in this exercise, we will use divergent thinking to generate ideas to serve as the basis for a piece of writing. So that's part of what we as educators call the hidden curriculum here, is to get into the habit also to use ideation, to use divergent thinking, to use convergent thinking as a way to come up with the thoughts that you're going to be using in an actual piece of writing, in an assignment or anything that you're going to do, right? So ideation, brainstorming could be a really good way to unearth all kinds of different thoughts, all kinds of different ideas that could serve as the basis for an outline or as the basis for the actual writing itself. All right, so it says here, what are the roots of your journey into your field and craft? What is your origin story? Is your choice of field and craft driven by passion? Is it driven by pragmatism, or a mix of both? So did you go into your field? Did you start to, develop skills related to your craft because you feel really passionate about a specific area? Is it something more pragmatic, like you think that there are jobs? Or is it a mix of both? Is there some kind of crossover between something that you're passionate enough about, but also you feel like it's pragmatic to get into that field, right? So is it a mix? For this exercise, your job is to share the most memorable and pivotal experiences. So we're going to be thinking back. We're going to be recalling, we're going to be recollecting from our memory banks, right? So it says for this exercise, your job is to share the most memorable and pivotal experiences that contributed to your journey into your field and your craft. So what is your field? What is your craft? I wrote here in parentheses, for example, my own. So it says here, e.g., As a professor, my field is higher education. My domain is higher education. And my craft, the skill set that's associated with my main work, is teaching, right? Of course, I have a number of different crafts. Like one of them is teaching, another is researching, a third is writing. But I'm just going to focus mostly on teaching here. Instructions. So let's get started. It says here, following the steps outlined below, use stick-em-up brainstorming. That's, if you remember, that is brainstorming using Post-it notes. Use stick-em-up brainstorming to flesh out some of your memories and get them onto Miro or onto paper using real Post-it notes. Okay, so it says here, step 1, prepare an array of 30 sticky notes. 6 rows, 5 columns on Miro using real stickies in this configuration that you could see over here. So you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, which means that there's 30 stickies total. So how do you do that? Okay, over here the first thing that I'd do is I'd navigate to Miro.com and log in if I have an account. I see that they're doing some kind of promotion there, and click new board here. Okay, so you could click new board. All right, now first thing that I'd recommend doing once you create a new board is go down to this template, which is called brainwriting, and click use, and you'll see that it'll drop, just like for assignment 1 we did this, it'll drop an array of stickies, so you don't have to do all the work here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete all the ones that I don't need. And on the left, you can see that we need 6 rows, 5 columns. So I'll start at the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'll delete row 7 here at the top. So this is just an easy way of doing it, right? And then 5 columns, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll delete this last column over here. And then I'll just clean these up by clearing any text that's in the template. And again, okay, so step 1 is taken care of, right? Prepare an array of 30 stickies on Miro in that configuration. So we got it. There we go. And I'm going to frame it up really nice on the right-hand side of my screen. Now, it says here step 2. On the left side of the array of sticky notes, label each row with the following labels. And you could see at the bottom there's an image as well that kind of demonstrates that. So the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to go to my toolbar here on Miro, and I know that this text box tool, this like capital T in the toolbar, if I click that, by the way, anytime that you go into Miro, it's really important to make sure that this top arrow in the toolbar is enabled. If it's not enabled, whenever I grab anything on the board, it's just going to grab it. That hand cursor, that just grabs. So first thing I do whenever I get into Miro, and I recommend you do this as well as if you use it, is click that top tool and make sure that that arrow is the color blue. Now I could click into any object. You see, that's different than the grab tool. So I'm going to click the T, the text tool, and I'm going to drop a text box right beside the top row. And I'm going to make the font a little bigger, maybe 24. And in my instructions, it says, on the left side of the array of sticky notes, label each row with the following label. So the first one is row 1 is earliest memories. So I'm going to write earliest memories, and then I'm going to just drag it a little over to the left. What I'm going to do here, actually, I could go back to the text box and keep creating text boxes. Instead, I'm going to click my arrow tool, and I'm just going to duplicate this. You could duplicate by pressing Command D on a Mac, Control D on a PC, or just go to these 3 dots in the toolbar and then down to where it says duplicate. And you see it just duplicated that. So I'm going to drag it here, align it. I'm going to do that how many times? For each row? Okay. So now I have those text boxes. What's the label for row 2? It says here on the instructions, row 2, sources of inspiration. So I'm going to click in and just type sources of inspiration, right? And I'll just drag it over to make it look nice. Standout successes is row 3. What were some standout successes? So you could see that I could already, I know this assignment obviously, but maybe while you're doing this, you're kind of seeing that these are different things that you're going to be brainstorming on. All right. So step 2 is done. Let's scroll down to page 2. Just scroll down. Step 3. It says here, think back. So this is what you're invited to do here. This is what we're all invited to do, is to think back and recall from our memories your most prevalent past experiences and answer the following questions. Now, each of these questions correlates to one of these pieces of text that we wrote on the left-hand side of each row. So you could see that, it says answer the following questions in each of the rows of your array of stickies. Be sure to share specific memories related to each. And I recommend try to be as detailed as you can. So these memories, these thoughts, these ideas that we're going to be brainstorming down here, they're going to serve as the basis for our writing. So if we have a good level of detail, it's going to help later on. So I don't want to just use like 1 or 2 word answers here. I want to actually write tasks. I'll demonstrate here. Let me zoom in a little bit on my Miro board. All right, so row 1, what brought you to your field? What are some of your earliest memories related to your work craft? So my craft is teaching, like I said before. So, maybe I'll even take a sticky note and put it up here and write craft teaching, just to make it clear. And I'll put that over here. All right, so what are some of my earliest memories? So one thing that I remember is being really, really young, and my mother was a teacher. She was a grade 1 teacher for 42 years, and she actually used to tutor students after work, like after 4 p.m., and also on the weekends. So I actually remember on Saturday mornings getting up to watch Saturday morning cartoons, and going downstairs to have breakfast first. So I'd get a bowl of cereal and I'd go into the dining room, which is right beside our kitchen. And she would be teaching a student. She'd be tutoring a student in the kitchen while I would be in the dining room eating. So I was in earshot. I was able to hear everything that was going on. Not that I wanted to, but that's a really early memory that's related to teaching. And I think that just being in that zone now, thinking back as an adult, I think that might have had an influence on my ability to teach and just having an understanding of what teaching is all about. So I'm going to write here, I'm going to make this, what am I going to write? I'm going to write, what's an earliest memory? I remember getting up on Saturday mornings and having breakfast with my mom, tutoring students in the adjacent kitchen. Right? So that's like one memory. What's another memory? So the job here is to go through and brainstorm 5, to recall 5 for each of these so that all of these stickies are filled. So I'm going to do a second one here. What's another memory? Well, my brother's actually like a pianist. Right now he's a classical music composer and performer, but he's also a music producer and stuff. But I remember when we were kids, he taught piano after school. So I remember coming home from school each weekday as a teen, and my brother would be teaching piano in our family room. I could hear him explaining things and demonstrating, right? So you see, I have some level of detail here, and that's what I'm going to do. Just go like one by one by one. Now, these don't all have to be memories from childhood. These could be memories from, university. They could be memories from high school. They can be memories from anywhere, right? But this is what we're looking at, is what are some of the memories that you have of experiences that in some way were related to your field, right? What are some early memories related to your work and craft? So you just go by and do that. Next, row 2. Who have been your major sources of inspiration? Who are some people who encouraged you? Who are some people that inspired you? So I'll write here, my brother was a big inspiration in terms of performing, but also in terms of teaching. His students always liked how, now here I'm remembering, right? His students always liked how he taught them pop songs, which they liked better than classical songs, right? Classical pieces on the piano, instead of the usual classical pieces. Okay, so I'm really fleshing this stuff out of my memory. I probably wouldn't have even remembered that. This is what you're doing. You're just going through these different questions. Next would be row 3. What have been your standout successes? Some wins, some achievements. I remember winning an award, a teaching award, when I was in Teachers College, so I might write that down here, right? And again, I'm going to do in some detail. And then once I've done 5 ideas for that, 5 recollections, 5 memories, I'll go to 4, row 4. What have there been any setbacks? How did I overcome them, right? And then you see there's 2 here, the bottom 2 rows. Where am I now? So now we aren't looking at memories anymore. Now we're thinking, where am I now? So I could be like, I am a prof of creativity and psychology at Sheridan. Now in my 6th year. Holy smokes. And I'll write, holy smokes, exclamation mark. So whatever comes into my mind, I'm just writing it down. Where am I now? So what's another thing? What's another way to answer that? 5 times. And where do I hope to go? Okay, so let's imagine that we've done that. Let's imagine that we've completed those. I've actually done this on a separate board, so I'll just jump in here and zoom in. You can see that I have a whole bunch here. They're not exactly the same. Some of them are a little bit the same. Imagine that I finished all these. There shouldn't be any empty ones here. So step 4, it says, once you have completed your brainstorm and filled in all 30 stickies, take a screenshot or photo of your array of stickies. You should remember this from assignment 1. Having done that recently. Same thing here. We're taking a photograph of our process work, our ideation work. Your process work is going to be worth a substantial amount of grades. It'll either be worth 15%, 15 of the 25, or 10 of the 25. I'm not sure yet, but I'll decide before we do the grading, and I'll let you know. Okay, so it says, once you've completed your brainstorm and filled in all 30 stickies, take a screenshot or photo of your array of stickies, of ideas. Be sure this image is in focus for easy reading. This process work image will be one of your assignment deliverables. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to frame this up really nice, and there's 2 ways I could do this. I could just take a screenshot. I'm going to do that right here. Okay, and say cheese. Boom, there it is. Another way to do this is on Miro, there's a feature to export images. So I could go up here at the top. There's this little tray with an arrow where it says export. You can go save as image, and then you could choose like medium size, large size. I'll go medium size. And then you just drag these corners to where you want your image to end. I'll just make sure that everything's included here. And then once I've framed that nicely, I could just press export. And then boom, it will have created that. And that'll be like a really high resolution image. So either way you want to do it, or you could take, if you're working in the analog domain with actual stickies, you could just take a picture with your smartphone or with a camera or something like that. So it says here, step 5, now that you have recalled your enough experiences and recorded them on notes, write your own 500-word origin story, sharing how these experiences formed your journey to your field and brought you to the present moment. Your brainstorm ideas should serve as the basis of your writing, but not copied verbatim. So you don't want to copy them word for word. Additionally, briefly reflect on the roles of passion, okay, and pragmatism, which we talked about at the beginning, right? Passion. You know, we're all very passionate about all kinds of things. Are we passionate about our work? How did passion play in here? I'm actually quite passionate about teaching and learning, and especially when it comes to creativity. But it's also kind of pragmatic, you know, for me to have learned teaching, because I knew that there were going to be like some practical jobs that were available, right? So we want to briefly reflect on the roles of passion and pragmatism, and weave them into the origin story at some point. So what does this look like? Okay, I'm going to now put my array of ideas on the left side here, and in advance I prepared a Microsoft Word document, but you could just grab like a new document and just place it on the right, and then start to compile the ideas, right, in writing, but not word for word. So you could see here, I began doing this, and I didn't do it word for word. I started elsewhere. So I wrote here, I come from a family of teachers. Some of my earliest memories are of watching or overhearing teaching and learning. My mother was a grade school teacher of 42 years, and she actually taught at the elementary school I attended. Aside from teaching in school, Mom also tutored students in our home regularly, usually after school and on weekend mornings. So you see, I just kind of used this first as the basis, right? I didn't actually just like copy it and paste it over. I used it as the basis to just explain and start to kind of, you know, go through my origin story. Do you have to use all of these stickies here? No, absolutely not. But I'd like to see some tie between the memories that were, you know, that you brainstormed here and how they are represented in your origin story. We're only looking for 500 words, so that would be 2 pages double spaced. Do you have to stick with 500? Can you go a little bit over? Yes, you can go a little bit over. I'm not going to be strict. But check it out. What are the actual deliverables? What are you actually expected to hand in here? So it says, for this exercise, please produce 1, a clear screenshot or photo of your divergent thinking process work, right, which I have here. And the second deliverable is your 500-word origin story in paragraph form. So not in bullets, not just copied and pasted, in paragraph. It says here it's okay if you exceed the word count. That's fine. So make sure to submit these 2 deliverables to the appropriate Dropbox on Slate. You should have 2 files. You can have a Word file or a PDF with your origin story, and some kind of clear image file with your screenshot or photo.